How are you today? So, we've been going through the trial exhibits for the 2020 complaint, but the trial exhibits are from 2023 of the search monopoly case on Google in Judge Mehta's court, Mehta. And then there is also a different monopoly case against Google. I believe that complaint was filed 2023 on the ad technology monopoly case, and that one is in Judge Brinkema's court. Brin. Yeah, I got it. Shit. Well, I changed it. Fuck. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Brinkema. All right. I think I'm spelling that shit right. I could be wrong. I think I'm getting this right. Now I'm like, dude, I've been saying this. What if I've been wrong this whole time? Okay. Also, another thing I don't know if I was wrong or right about. In my last live stream, I'm not sure if I gave the correct count or not in there, and I didn't go back and check. Fuck it. But So at that live stream, whenever we had covered it, I was through 24 sources at the beginning of it already, and then we got through 6 of it in that live stream, and then we were at 30. I feel like I think in that live stream, I can't remember if I lost track or not, um, how many that we have gone through of the trial exhibits. And I was just like, wait a minute, because I had in my head that we had done like 24 or 26 or something. And so then I go back and check again. No, we've definitely done 30, and we definitely went through 6 exhibits last time. So I don't know if I said this right or not, but yeah. So right now we're at 30 trial exhibits. So um, anyway, I'm gonna fucking roll my intro, and then we're gonna do a little update. Not an update. We're gonna do a recap, and then I'll talk about updates at the end on coverage. But yeah, fucking let's do this bitch. Alrighty, let's just see how many we can get through. How many I can sit through right now. Yeah. Hi, my name is Alexis, also known as Lexi or Deaf Child. I was born deaf, hard of hearing. I began doing business as Deaf Child 2013, marketing 2011, sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales. My Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Deafness runs in my family genetically. Speech is not fully accessible to me. Anyway, I'm here to bitch about whatever the fuck is on my mind. So here we go. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. So, we've been going through the trial exhibits. The initial complaint was filed 2020, so it's been referred to as the 2020 U.S. and Plaintiff States case versus Google. But yeah, the exhibits, they come from a whole variety of dates, but they were made publicly available all in 2023. And we've gone through 30 exhibits so far. And then I've gone too far. In the last live stream, we went through 6 exhibits. We went through a search ads overview, and this just kind of showed the difference between search ads, how it looks when you do a regular text ad versus a shopping ad for a product, and it showed the difference between those two. And then it also showed the differences for product ads between general search result pages as well as if it's on like the image or the shopping product feed, whatever fuck they're calling it on Google. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that. And then we went through the ads performance match communication document. And this just kind of explained the way that so there's different ways that you can do ads on Google, from the search ads, performance maps, as well as the discovery ads. And the primary difference with all of this, so with search ads, you can control way more how you're shown up based on the input that you can put in with the text and all of that. And then with there's like also display ads as well. So there's display ads and discovery ads, and then there's performance ads. So with search ads, you can you very much can control like how much budget you're spending per day or how much budget you're spending per month. You can set a match per day as well. Then you can determine a match per click if you want. You can also fucking well, you do match per day by doing the math and different inputs, just depending. But you can make it like you can set whatever limitations you kind of need to set, or if you need to cost cap it, if you're not going to be profitable if you spend, if you bid for X, you know what I'm saying? Then you start lower, right? But yeah, fucking, and so with search ads, you basically show up like a regular text result, but then you know what I'm saying? And you can control how you show up based on those keywords. Um, when we get into performance max and display ads, those you can't necessarily control what you show up for by keyword, though you can by topic. And that's kind of like the primary difference in terms of like that, as well as visually there's differences because there's images, and then display ad is like or video. And then with display ad is like they're trying to compete with social media, so that's even less targeted. That's even more broad, in my opinion. And it's going to feel so with the other ads, they're more based on a bottom funnel intent, where they're matching your ad to users who are most likely to have the intent that you connect it to, in terms of you can set what conversions you want it to be for, versus with like a display ad, which is where they're just trying to compete with social media advertising. That's more focused on awareness and general engagement. And so, yeah, they have a mix of both, and that's kind of what all of this was basically saying. And so, yeah, I just spent like I started going into the difference of all of that because of the Google Ads performance match communication document. And so that just goes into more detail on the Google Ads performance match. And then the Google presentation, the ad formats on Google, this one uh, kind of goes into more detail on the search ads overview, but kind of more detail on what those formats look like. And then differentiating that in terms of discussing like display ads and Google ads and search ads. And then discovery ads is where they start showing the difference between how you can get targeted in these different ways. And then the search advertising speech from this one, fucking, they were basically saying, they were talking about revenue and the supply and demand and all of that, in terms of, generating demand, and having supply. But like, one of the things they were saying was that the law always catches up with you. And they were referring like LAW, and they were referring, sorry, I was saying that for the captioner. They were referring to fucking the law of economics, but I thought that was fucking hilarious because it's like, hmm, yeah, okay, now then you're getting sued. But the last document we went over was the presentation on tuning for Smarties, and this was literally about how they tune prices that advertisers pay for search advertising. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of goes into detail on that. But yeah, fucking. So that could be perceived as a court as potentially fixing prices, but that's been relevant, in my opinion, for the search monopoly case, in terms of where the government was able to argue that part of the way that they were upholding a monopoly was through their search advertising to generate the money in order to be able to pay for the revenue share agreements and other agreements and types of things that lock these companies into these deals with them. I said that locked these companies. That fucking caption is wrong again. Goddamn. Anyway, okay, so moving on. I feel like that's probably a terrible summary of all of that, but maybe not a bad one. So, we're gonna keep just seeing how much I can cover today. And first up, we're gonna address exhibit number UPX0059. And this is a Google document on randomization we can explain to advertisers. And it's dated January 18th, 2018. Seems to have been uploaded October 4th, 2023. And I am wondering if this is based on the ad auction without looking into it, because they call that like something about secondary random pricing or some bullshit like that. Um, but let's see. So it says randomization we can explain to advertisers. And then it's partly redacted. And it says background. There are a few important metrics to advertisers we need to be cognizant of if we want to launch randomization, and especially if we aim to use these as a way to replace format pricing. Average position. The average auction position, not page position, for the keyword over the auctions it has participated in. For example, if it was the top ad on the page in the bottom slot and the second ad on the page in the top slot on another query, the average position would be 1 plus 2 out of 2, or 1.5. And in the impression share. Impressions in any slot over queries the advertiser could have shown on. Our logic for determining where the advertiser could have shown is not exactly great, basically based on a rough simulation and a limited slicing of rejected ads that sort of asks the question, where could the advertiser have shown if they multiplied their bid by X, or I think X is 10. Budgets are accounted for, but XBT is not. So, let's see. What can I type right now? When I Google XBT, all I see is Bitcoin. Okay. Fucking, yeah. So this is basically what I was talking about with the auction and reference to how ads show up, or even search results too, because it's kind of similar but different. But in terms of like how to determine for what ad that you determine that you bid for, like if they, and they're saying this is different than the page result because they've already determined if you're relevant to the page, but then they're determining which site on the page would the ad be relevant to. Right here is where they're showing the formula behind that math as it relates to the auction. If you've already looked at, I think this was on, if I'm not mistaken, the sixth trial exhibit that we did, where we went over the random secondary general pricing, whatever the fuck it was called. I don't know. But yeah, that shit, that's the one where it goes into even more detail about the theory behind the formulas and the technicalities of the auction and how they do it, if you want to know a bit more there. And I'm sure this document will give us a bit more information we'll keep processing here. But then it keeps saying, click share, not launched yet. So some of, right here it says PN. I don't know what they mean by that here, but then I know that PCTR is typically referred to as predicted click-through rate, but let's see what this means. The fuck? programmatic, perhaps. Programmatic native is what they were putting in here, which would be programmatic advertising. Predicted programmatic advertising click-through rate, perhaps. Who knows? Anyway, so click share, not launched yet. So something about predicted click-through rate, I believe, of shown impressions over the summary of the max possible expected clicks. It says the denominator of the metric is computed by simulating the maximum clicks the advertiser could get at the maximum bid using a methodology similar to bid landscapes, and if they had full and relevant extension coverage. And it says, what are some relevant things we communicate? The ad with the highest ad rank gets the highest position. We used to say you paid a minimum to beat the runner up, but now we just say that your cost per click is based on your competition and the ad rank thresholds. This gives us freedom to do things like configuration pricing. That is an interesting line right here. They're basically saying they reworded the way they communicate to advertisers to give them more freedom to do things like configure pricing. Anyway, isn't it says config pricing? So I'm just assuming what version of config they mean. So then there's 9 comments about this section. So comment 1 said, really, advertisers care about this metric. How can that possibly be useful if not conditioned on the slide? Number 2 said, +1. I don't know what they mean by that, whatever. Comment 3 said, I agree this is not a great metric, but there are a lot of folks that care. It is sliceable by slot, but even if we restrict to slot, issues remain when triggering on new queries. Comment 4 said, is this not something like current impressions over max possible impressions? Is that what they mean right here? Current impressions over max possible impressions? Yeah, that's way easier to process. By PM, did it mean present predicted click-through rate? The fuck? I don't know. That doesn't make sense though. Okay. And comment 5 said basically yes. Comment 6 said, so jacking up the bid to an arbitrarily large value. And the comment 7 said yes. Did I zoom into this? I need to just to put this on the screen. God, holy fuck. I can't believe they really, wow. This one needs a reiteration right here. Comment 6 and 7. It said, so jacking up the bid to an arbitrary large value. And the answer was yes. And then the comment after that said, doesn't format pricing violate it? Or was it really you pay the minimum required to keep the current allocation? But that seems equivalent to saying we don't burst price. And then the last comment we see here says about this says format pricing doesn't violate this. Formats lower your long-term value. We also say you pay the minimum necessary to maintain your position and extensions. Interesting. Interesting. So looks like other people are backing up. And this right here, in my opinion, comment number 9 particularly right here kind of backs up the fact that they're saying that they specifically word things to give them freedom to do things like quote unquote config pricing. Interesting. So yeah. And then it shows some requirements here, and it says we need a mechanism advertisers can grok. What the fuck does that mean? Okay, I'm like, isn't that a character in a fucking movie? Okay, in the book, to grok is to empathize so deeply with others that you merge or blend with them. It's an informal verb invented in the science fiction writer Robert Heinlein. A. Helen? She, I don't know. For the 1961 novel Stranger in a Strange Land. Okay. So, to empathize so deeply with others, you merge or blend with them. We need a mechanism advertisers can empathize so deeply with others. Can grok? I don't know. He knows what the fuck they mean by that. And that advertisers perceive as fair and logical. I am willing to make some changes to our external documentation. But bonus points go to a mechanism which fits within the Help Center rewrite we just did. And then it seems to link to a summary of the rewrite here, I think, but it's obviously not available to us. And then it says, what will advertisers expect? Impression share is non-decreasing in bid. Click share is non-decreasing in bid. If impression share is maxed out, average position is non-decreasing in bid. So I guess they mean that I don't know what they mean in terms of impression share is non-decreasing in bid, because typically, like, the higher you bid, the better placement you get, so the better clicks and impressions you get. So this right here to me is like, it doesn't compute in my head what the fuck they mean. Okay. And then it says the IS maxed condition is important. Average position can fall if an advertiser raises their bid and suddenly becomes eligible for a bunch more queries but shows lower on the page. Adding extensions should improve their accounts. This means they should be able to get the same number of clicks for cheaper or the same cost. Impression share, click share, or average position should not decrease because an advertiser adds extensions and changes nothing else. What are some other important considerations? Smooth click cost curves, a wide variety of prices and click volumes, which are convex. Convex? Convex? I don't know how to say that, to be honest. So curving outward, convex. Okay, like concave versus convex, that makes sense. Opposite of concave. And then it says, at the same time, we don't want them to be too smooth. We need some discreetness so that advertisers aren't always paying their bid. Otherwise, they might perceive us to be running a first price auction, which will be really harmful. But how would you be perceived to be running a first price auction if you weren't? Anyway, it says you can lower your bid to get fewer expected clicks at better return on investment. As you get more expected volume, your return on investment falls. And then it says good incentives. No incentives to try and game lower positions like we had pre-alpha red. Can't get more clicks for less cost in a lower position. No incentives to opt out of formats, and ideally a strong incentive to opt into them. No data incentive issue. The top advertisers shouldn't be able to arbitrarily increase their bid and cause lower advertisers to lose clicks or impressions. Incentives for lower advertisers to bid up, and also not to free ride. When we bump top 1 down, we give top 2 something for free, which creates less incentive to raise bids. We also need to account for these free bump up clicks. For example, with higher probabilities for moving them down a position, or as a part of their click cost curve. Also, top 2 can potentially raise their bid and get more clicks for no change in cost per click. The top 1 person just gets bumped down more, but then if they cross the bid to win top 1, they'll get a click increase for a large cost increase. There needs to be smoothness for them here, and more clicks should lower return on investment. Easy to tune with the ability to raise prices. shift the curve upwards, or make it steeper at the higher end in small increments over time, also known as quote-unquote inflation. It says we don't want to have to say we quote-unquote randomize. Now, we'll have perception problems. We are exploring these mechanisms to replace format pricing with something as powerful, but which doesn't have the format opt-out incentives. So, some important product direction. There isn't a reserve pricing problem. We aren't looking to price singletons. We win by leveraging the existing vanilla second prices, but then closing the gap between advertisers' headroom, especially in top one. Deciding which ads we show has major quality and efficiency implications, and so we want to try to keep the ads we show constant. Changing the user interface of these ads, formats, and position has good trade-offs, and we should be happy to change those up for price discovery and revenue. So we're talking about top one down and top two and all that. So they're talking about like the ad placements. So there's typically like, I don't know, I forget the number, but let's say, for example, there'll be like 3 ad slots at the top of the page, and then you scroll down and there's like probably more, but let's say there's 3 more. So the top 1, 2, and 3, and then bottom 1, 2, and 3. So you'll see top 2, that's top of the page, the second ad. You know what I mean? Bottom 3, bottom of the page, the third ad, for example. So that's what they mean when they say that. And then the comments on this discussion, on this portion of it, let's read those. It says, just to confirm, IS maxed out does not mean that all impressions are in top right. To max out, you can still end up with a mix of top and bottom impressions. If so, I see one problem here. What about the case where they marginally raise their bids and a bunch of bot 1 impressions now migrate to top 4? It says bot 1 impressions now migrate to top 4. I wonder if they mean top 1, or who knows, thus lowering the average position. This can happen even in situations where the IS is maxed out. No, and also, let's see what the fuck IS means. Okay. Oh, their IS stands for pay-per-click. How the fuck does IS stand for pay-per-click? I don't know, but apparently it fucking does. Who knows? Honestly, Google's not helping me. Anyway, so where the fuck was I? Sorry. Something about this. Did I read this? It said this can happen even in situations where the IS is maxed out. No? Yeah. All right. So, and then it said, then someone commented, yes. Bottom 1 is position 5 and top 4 is position 4 in your example. So average position will go up. And then someone else said, what? Then why did we even entertain fractional formats to begin with? And then another comment said, because it seemed like a simple way to get some nice gains. Are they saying because it seemed like easy money? Is that what they meant by that? I don't know. I'm just asking. And then it said, all of these properties are trade-offs we can make in fractional formats. It didn't seem like the pay your bid case would be the dominant thing, but here it may be more problematic, and we are building a new system anyway, so it is worth thinking about this property from the beginning. Another comment. One nice thing about the randomization mechanism is that we can make a very clean statement, if we want to, that adding formats should give you more clicks at the same cost per click. Someone else, or I don't know if it's someone else, but I think it is, agree. See later in the doc for a similar comment. Another comment, I suppose this term is important here. Without it, format pricing and OC allow that. Comment, I agree, the OC has this issue a bit, but they do have a higher cost for this gaming. The fuck does OC mean? Apparently OC means optimized targeting. They really need to work on their definitions because what the fuck? How the fuck is IS cost per click and OC optimized targeting? I don't fucking know. Okay, y'all make no sense to me. Optimized conversion? Who knows? The OC has this issue a bit, but they do have a higher cost for this gaming. Okay, I just think Orange County. We have this problem with XBT today without the pricing fix, with the difference that we're bumped top one out instead of down. Another comment, then we should quickly change our wording in all our docs and KRs. I think if we use the work expectation instead of randomization, it would do the trick. By KRs, do they mean key reports? I don't know. What the fuck is KR? Key results? Okay. And our key results? I think alright, another comment said makes sense. Another comment said, what would we have to say that to advertisers to? Does that make sense to them? And then another advertiser said, if we say things like we run an auction focused on clicks, we give the most expected clicks to the highest ranked advertiser and so on, then yes, I think we can tell a good story. If I have to say we randomly disable you if you don't bid high enough, then I'm going to have another bad year at GMN. The fuck is G... Global Music Network? No, that's not right. Google something? But yeah, right here. So just comment if I think we can tell a good story. If I have to say randomly disable you if you don't bid high enough, then I'm going to have another bad year. That's an interesting comment, particularly, in relation to perception problems. We don't have to say we randomize and talking about inflation. You know what I mean? So, yeah, fucking, and then over here, this gives us the freedom to do things like config pricing. Someone said we also say this in order to word things to give us the freedom to do things like config pricing, and so, yeah, there just seems to be like a bit from this document. It kind of shows where they basically argue like how they are tweaking the way that they position ads in order to make them more money, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my opinion, what I took from this document. So yeah, let's see how much more we can get through. Next up, we have exhibit number UPX0072. And this is an email from Joan Braddi of Google to Sergey Brin of Google et al. I am so sorry if I said that wrong. And it seems to be forwarding an Apple update. It seems to be from June 1st, 2017, uploaded November 2nd, 2023. The emails have been relatively quick. So, we know that this is from Joan Braddi. It seems to be to Sergey Brin, Omid Kordestani, Eric Schmidt, with Jeff Chardell CC'd. The subject is forwarding an Apple update. Sorry if I said everybody's names wrong. I think I did. And it said, I left another message for Phil. We have been playing phone tag. Here is the message Jeff communicated to their team yesterday based on our discussion at Deal Review. Joan. And then it says, from Jeff Chardell, and then it's redacted, to Omid Kordestani, with Joan Braddi CC'd. The subject is Apple update. And it says, Omid, regarding what I communicated to Apple with Brian, and it's got Brian Kroll here in parentheses, it said, I first spent time explaining the concept of incremental revenue and wanted him to understand it was important for us to determine how much additional revenue we were making because of this deal. I explained how many of the people using their browser would already be typing in www.google.com. So this uptick of incremental number was very important to us and could be determined by a trial. I then told him we have two options, depending on whether or not Apple will give us default placement. 1. No default placement, no revenue share on Safari or Windows. 2. Yes default placement, we will share in revenue under the current contract. We wanted to let it run until the end of the year so we could see how it performs and see how the renewal should be structured. To simplify, if they give us default placement, absolutely nothing needs to happen in regard to the existing agreement since both parties are covered. Let me know if you have any other questions. Jeff. On June 4th, 2007, Omid Kordestani wrote, "Hi Jeff, please send me a few bullets on what exactly you communicated so that I can keep everyone on the same page. Thanks, Omid." Okay, so this is all from this is from 2007. Hold on real quick. This document right here at the beginning was labeled as 2017, but I think that must have been a typo because this is all seems to be from 2007, by the way, guys. Processing that. It does matter. It really does. Okay, and then it said, on June 4, 2007, Omid Kordestani wrote, "Hi Jeff, please send me a few bullets on what exactly you communicated so that I can keep everyone on the same page. Thanks, Omid." And I was thinking that because right here they're talking about these revenue share agreements, and I was thinking that by 2017, that shit had already been said and done. And so then I paid back attention to the date. Oh, this is 2007. This says 2007 right here, and I wasn't reading this date. So yeah, that was definitely labeled wrong. And so I'm wondering if anything else was that we've discussed, but you know what? Can't process that right now. So yeah, fucking, did I read this? I think I can't remember. Fuck it, reading it again. On June 4th, 2007, Omid Kordestani wrote, "Hi Jeff, please send me a few bullet points on what exactly you communicated so that I can keep everyone on the same page. Thanks, Omid." And then from that, the original message seems to be from Jeff Shardell, Google, to Sundar Pichai, Sergey Brin, Omid Kordestani at Google. And the subject was the Apple update. And it said, "FYI, I just spoke with Apple and delivered the message as discussed. They're digesting it and will get back shortly. Jeff." I love how this is sent using a BlackBerry. Yeah, it's definitely from 2007. You know what I'm saying? Fucking, but yeah. Okay, so moving on. We got time for more. We've got a Google presentation here. So, exhibit number UPX0076, Google presentation, search entry points on Android. It's from September 28th, 2016 is what it says. It seems to have been updated, and it looks like it was uploaded November 27th, 2023. So it's showing search entry points on Android. So this seems to be partly redacted and it's pretty pixelated, so it's hard to read, but part of a spreadsheet shows an ID number of 1, the date of September 28, 2016 at 3:30 is the time. And the text says, "You have the smart quote-unquote privileged, but it is shared with everyone at Google. Is this working as intended?" Ooh, this is interesting because they've already been found of like having that evidence where they were allegedly, potentially misusing the concept of attorney-client privilege in order to cover some things up, in my opinion, possibly, if I interpreted all of this correctly. You know what I'm saying? So then it says search entry points on a typical Android phone. And it shows the quick search box, opens focused search box. It says non-Chrome browsers. long press home button opens now on tap. Then it shows other AGSA entry points. Notifications, shortcuts, deep links, has a mic button or OK Google, opens voice search, and the Google app icon opens now, and the Chrome app icon. It says QSB is the dominant entry point for AGSA searches. So let's see what an AGSA search means. Android Google search app. And then QSB. Actually, I should have put search. Quick search box. Okay, so quick search box, Android Google search app. Quick search box is the dominant entry point for Android Google search app searches. So it shows entry point for the daily queries, the quick search box, including the microphone, the app icon, and others, including hot words, long press, home, etc. But it's redacted here. And then it said quick search boxes get removed. Redacted logged widget deletions daily. Some redacted deletions are invisible to us. Redacted Android devices are activated daily. So yeah, so this is just kind of showing the amount of search entry points that Android phones come with. And I find that relevant based on the monopolization of the search in terms of how all of the defaults are set. And some of the apps are undeletable. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Okie dokie. Next up, we've got exhibit number UPX0095. And this is an email from Philip Schiller. Is it Philip Schiller of Apple to Eddy Q of Apple and et al. For Google versus Bing RPM from April 18th, 2016. Seems to be uploaded November 15th, 2023. So, this entirely first page is redacted. And what's not redacted on the second page says Bing scenario. Capture rate established at redacted percentage of forecast Google Safari queries. That is, they are assuming redacted would change default search engine to Google or migrate to Chrome. Consistent with our original modeling last fall, capture rate is the difficult variable to predict. Sensitivity is provided in the appendix 2. Then it's redacted, and it says revenue share established as redacted. And then it shows a comparison. Assumed redacted defection rate for Google post-cancellation and redacted. So, because most of this is redacted, I don't really know the whole fucking point in this document. I mean, I don't really know the point of any of this shit. I'm just, speculating here. But it looks like they're discussing, when they talk about capture rate, and in terms of a redacted percentage of the forecasted Google Safari queries, like how many queries, how many of those people, go into Safari, then end up using the default search engine for Google or migrating to Chrome. That's what they seem to be discussing here, but what that information is redacted, so we don't know. But what we can say is, this kind of does point to a plan of where they seem to be literally acknowledging that they were actively trying to get people to stop using one search engine in order to use theirs, or stop using one application or another company's browser that even their search engine is on, in order to make sure they can acquire them as a user on their platforms. I think these are wordings that the court could be using in arguing the monopolization right here, but perhaps I'm misunderstanding that. And then next up, let's see, and then, where it says forwarding here, Google versus Bing, revenue per 1,000 impressions, the topic of the email of the what the email is, but it's redacted, so we didn't see it. Is about competing with Bing, in my opinion, or Google and Bing competing, in my opinion, um, as it from an Apple perspective, because this is seems to be that was redacted, but it's labeled as Apple communication. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind too. So this wasn't even Google's internal documentation. This is what Apple was worried about. You know what I'm saying? And I think that could be used in arguing like, okay, Apple was literally like fucking, they were so stressed about the Google revenue share agreements that they were looking into how likely were their users going to be going over there, on top of not putting out their own search engine, because they did the math on how much money they would lose if they did that for how long, you know? So I don't know. I feel like, that could be relevant in all of that argument in terms of how Google could be a monopoly potentially. So yeah, next up, let's take another one here. We've got exhibit number UPX0097. This is an email from Mike Roszak. Am I saying that right? I'm so sorry. Mike Roszak, Google, to Carlos Kirjner. Don't think I'm saying that right either. So sorry. Carlos Kirjner, Google, regarding maps on Apple, June 8th, 2020. Seems to be dated November 4th, 2023. I'm like a little annoyed when I say it says produced in native. Whatever. So this is the Mike Roszak email to Carlos Kirjner regarding maps on Apple. And this is also just a reminder, of course, if you're looking for a tattoo near Pasadena, Texas, Houston, Texas, thinking about getting a tattoo, check out Ink by Cass at the V-Hole Studio. So, email between Mike Roszak and Carlos Kirjner. I think these are both Google employees right here. And regarding maps on Apples. So, it says, I'll see what we can find. I'm not sure how much good intel we have going back this far, but we will see what we know either from the historical shift or in general today about this usage question. And that was Monday, June 8th, 2020, and 7:06 p.m. And then on Monday, June 8th, 2020 at 3:25 p.m., so before that, Carlos had said, do we have data on usage versus daily active users, as more intense users may be more likely to switch to default. And then on June 8th, 2023, 23 p.m., just before that, Mike Roszak had said, this is a bit dated, but here was one of the charts that we had examined around GMM usage on Apple after the iOS default was swapped to Apple's offering, compared to Android 7DA in blue. Almost 2 years later, we were at redacted of the prior peak, and assumed the actual loss was greater since the Apple Maps usage was also growing across this time. And then it's redacted here, but it shows GMM 7DA devices, 7-day moving average. And then what the fuck is, oops, GMM. Global Marijuana March is my favorite result right there. Google Map Maker? Who knows? So, yeah. But anyway, we can looks like that they were concerned about also, following up that other documentation where Apple had just addressed concern about users switching from Apple to Google. Google was essentially following up an email conversations right here with similar concerns about their retention rate and their daily active users as it relates to iOS default, and how the iOS got switched to Apple Maps is I think what they're discovering right here, and discussing. The fuck am I saying? You know what the fuck I meant. Discussing. Not put the captioner put disgusting. Oops. Fuck it. Okay. Anyway, what they were talking about was they were worried about um, they had assumed that loss would be bad for between Google Maps and Apple whenever Apple got their own maps and switched from the Google Maps to Apple, right? And so from there, they were discussing about getting data on the usage versus the daily active users. So that way they can discuss, how can we determine who's going to switch the default in relation to their retention and moving Apple users to them, keeping them on them, things like that. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, fucking next up here, let's do another. We got exhibit number UPX0116. This is an email from Kate Plikus, don't know how to fuck to say that, of Microsoft to Adrian Perica, don't know how to fucking say that either, of Apple and others. The Baja presentation, October 2nd, 2018, would attach Microsoft presentation, the Baja Financial Model, from September 2018. And it seems to have been uploaded November 15th, 2023. So, yeah. Basically, it's from someone at Microsoft to a bunch of people at Apple and some people at Microsoft. And the subject is the Baja presentation. Baja slides from October 2nd, 2018, 4:56 is when it was sent. And it said, "Hi Adrian and Steve. It was great meeting you last week and I hope you had a good trip back. I'm attaching the deck that we went through in the meeting for your reference. Please let us know if you have any further questions. Thank you, Kate." And then it shows the slide deck, and it starts off, it says the Baja Financial Model, September 2018. And it says scale evidence, impact from original Yahoo supply. Key takeaways. We have empirical proof from our Yahoo search deal that incremental volume drives up revenue per 1,000 impressions. With the influx of With the influx of Yahoo traffic into our ecosystem in 2012, we were able to realize a one-time boost of our revenue per 1,000 impressions driven by injection of scale. Number 3 on the graph. That graph is redacted though. And then it says, in addition, having bigger marketplace enabled us to increase our innovation, which had driven up our revenue per 1,000 impressions even further over the next couple years. Numbers 4 through 6 on the graph. We believe that injection of Apple volume would enable us to realize revenue per 1,000 impression lifts from scale and innovation, similar to Yahoo deal. We would expect that these lifts would help us get to redacted of Google on iPhone and redacted of Google on iPad and Mac in the United States. In international markets, we would be able to get to redacted of Google. Notes. Curve represents how revenue per 1,000 impressions move with growth in supply. Supply drives advertiser demand, which drives revenue per 1,000 impressions and improves the quality of product, which drives more supply. The revenue per 1,000 impressions increases with scale as advertisers increase bids to be on top in the auction, and algorithms improve with more data. Curve is initially steep as small increases in scale meaningfully improve advertiser participation, making it possible to offset fixed costs of investing in another platform. Product innovation shifts performance to a higher revenue per thousand impression curve, not along the same curve. Most of subsequent performance improvements come from innovation and demand expansion. And then it says US user retention. And then it shows something that's redacted here, but next to that it says Safari default on iPhone. We estimate that redacted searches on iPhones take place through Safari, while redacted of searches go through Chrome and other entry points, including apps or voice. 2. Within Safari, we believe that redacted of the searches go through default search engine. 3. We believe that Google controls redacted of searches going through default as well as other entry points. And 4. Thus, we estimate that Google has total share of redacted of the iPhone and redacted share through default Safari setting. We assume that, I guess this is supposed to be redacted or it's a typo, I don't know. We assume that redacted deal with Google redacted on default setting. Then it says Safari default on iPad. iPad in our view is similar to iPhone. Through bigger real estate provides greater opportunity for Google to push Chrome. Safari default on Mac. Mac, given even larger real estate, leads to even higher usage of Chrome and direct nav. And then it shows Apple Insights and it's redacted. And keep in mind, this is a Microsoft confidential document is what it's showing here. So this is between Microsoft and Apple employees. And they're talking about right here the ways in which their revenue per thousand impression is impacted, and they could be increasing it if they were in business with Yahoo back in 2012. They thought that doing business with Yahoo would give them more money, but then they were also saying here that because of the default status that Google has, there's also the issue that they've seen a lot of their searches, the exact amount is redacted, goes through that default search engine. So that those something else there. So yeah, and then it says United States user retention post deal, but it's redacted here. And then it says Safari default on iPhone. In a post deal world, we believe we will keep the same redacted capture rate on Safari default traffic similar to Google now. We believe Google will respond competitively and then it's redacted users to use Google directly and push more users towards Chrome. In our estimates, these actions may reduce Safari share from redacted to redacted and default shares from redacted to redacted. We estimate that Bing share on iPhone will go up from redacted today to redacted post deal. And then it says Safari default on iPad. On iPad, we expect Bing share to go up to redacted post deal. And regarding international markets, it says we estimate retention in international markets to be redacted of the United States considering current Google strength. And so right here, they're planning for a post deal world. They're like, what are we going to do when we get out of Google's deal? And you know what I'm saying? So yeah, we can take that how we want to take it. And then it seems to show an appendix here, and it says U.S. Mac user retention post deal. But it's redacted, and then it says Safari default on Mac. In a post deal world, we expect Bing share to go up to redacted. International markets. We estimate retention in Mac international markets to be redacted of US considering current Google strength. So basically, it looks like after the Google deal is over with, or when they get out of the Google deal, Apple would think it's profitable and would consider and would possibly be going into business with Bing if they could. It seems like the whole point of this is, the only thing stopping them from doing business with Bing is the exclusivity that they're locked into with Google, in my opinion, is what I think we can take from that. But again, I'm not an attorney, so of course I could be wrong. Alrighty. Um, let's see here. We have done. We've gotten through 6 things. That's a good bit. Let's see if we can get through more. So next up, we got exhibit number UPX0123. And this is a Google presentation on the strategic value of default homepage to Google. And it seems to be from March 27, 2007. And it was updated, it says, and uploaded October 30th, 2023. It says on strategic value of default homepage to Google. This is a Google documentation here, and it says executive summary. 25% of users have Google as a default homepage. And then it has homepage in quotation marks as HP right here. And it says 30% plus, and I'm wondering if they mean EMEA and Latin America. Oh, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Okay. In Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, and Latin America, they've got 30%, and they've got half that in APAC. Is that the Asian Pacific and North America? Okay. Interesting. And then it says search share strongly correlated with default homepage. Users with Google as homepage do 50% more searches on Google. It says the homepage sets could be the easiest way to grow and defend search market share. Searches or user or week increase 15% after the homepage is set to Google. And it searches user by week decrease about 30% after the homepage is unset from Google. Interesting. I guess because they're making a conscious choice potentially to not use Google, or more of them could be. And then it says default homepage. The first web page to load when a browser starts up. Configurable by user, but very few know or care to change it. Many stay with pre-configured homepage, often set by ISP, the internet service provider, or the operating equipment manufacturer, or the browser. And then it said, key strategy question. Does default homepage affect the choice of a search engine? If so, by how much? A $15 billion question, but how could we answer it? Our approach. Use 2 new sources of homepage data. 1. Recent logging change allows partial homepage tracking. Is current page to homepage? Can tell if the homepage is set to Google or not. 2. Cup panel allows unique peek into user behavior. Tracks desktop settings, all web behavior on Google and off Google. Big representative panel in 4 countries. About 4,000 users each. The fuck is a cup panel? I'm just getting drug tests here. Well, interesting. And then there's a comment here that says there's an inconsistent use between lowercase HP and uppercase HP for homepage. Who gives a shit? Then it says default homepage share. 25% worldwide. Strong in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Weak in Asian Pacific. What the fuck is AC and North America? Okay, yeah, Asia Pacific in North America. And then it shows the homepage share. So the homepage share by the region, 16% in North America, 30% in Europe, Middle East, Africa, 25% in Latin America, 15% in Asian Pacific regions, 25% overall. Strong correlation with search share. Cannot speak. Speak, fuck, whatever. Can't speak. Strong correlation with search share. Almost linear relationship. 1 point homepage share worth 2.6 points of search market share. And then it shows percent share by search market share by region. And we see the homepage share and the search share as well. So in North America, the homepage share is 16%. The search share is 48%. And Europe, Middle East, Africa, the homepage share is 30%. The search share is 87%. In Latin America, we got 25% on the homepage share, but it's not applicable for the search share. For Asia Pacific market, we've got 15%. What the fuck? Homepage share? I cannot speak. And 36% search share. And then overall is 25% on the homepage and 65% on the search share. And then it shows the homepage and search behavior. It says users with Google as the homepage have 50% more search visits, 55% more searches in a week, fewer visits to competitor search engines. And it shows a graph here of the number of visits between people who are, the homepage is not Google and the homepage is Google. So that's 3.5 not Google, 5.2 for Google. The number of searches, 8 not Google, 12.5 Google. And percentage using other search engines, 20% homepage not Google, 13% homepage is Google. Here it says, is the homepage the cause or effect? Compared number of searches before and after the homepage is set. 15% increase in visits and searches after the homepage is set. Weekly search usage before and after homepage set to Google. And it shows the number of searches, the number of visits, the percentage using other search engines. Again, and this time it shows the percentage difference. So the percentage difference in the number of visits is 11%. The percentage difference in the number of searches is 15%. And the percentage difference in the percentage using other search engines is about 31% between people who have the homepage set or pre the homepage set to Google or post homepage set to Google. And it says very few product changes have moved searches by user by more than 2%. When users unset the homepage, searches on Google drop by 27%. It shows the weekly search usage before and after homepage unset from Google. It shows number of visits, the number of searches, and the percentage using other search engines. And this is pre and post the homepage unset and the percentage difference. So for number of visits, it's 24% difference. The number of searches, 27%. And the percentage using other search engines is 29%. I feel like I'm not wording all that right, but you know what? Fuck it. Processing is hard. Anyway, and then it says homepage strongly affects share of searches. It says Google gets practically all searches if the homepage is Google. Impact is stronger for Yahoo in terms of lift in share. And it shows two graphs here. One's for the search share for users with Google as the homepage, and the other is the search share for users with Yahoo as the homepage. And we see with Google as the homepage, Google has 91% share while Yahoo has 5%. And with Yahoo as the homepage, Google still has 33% while Yahoo has 60%. Then we see how vulnerable are search engines to homepage settings. It says Google least vulnerable, but it could still lose a big share. Could be devastating for Yahoo and Microsoft Network to lose homepage setting. And it shows the percentage of searches from the home pages. And then implications. It says data suggests that users do not always make an active, deliberate choice of a search engine. Choice seems influenced by handy access to search bots, often determined by the default homepage. Most users stay with pre-configured homepage settings. Product quality or brand seems to temper the effect of default homepage. Google still preferred even if the homepage is not Google. Yahoo or Microsoft Network strongly dependent on the homepage setting for search share. Default homepage can be a powerful strategic weapon in the search battle. Could be an easy way to grow and defend market share for Google. Could be the Achilles heel for Yahoo and Microsoft Network. It's the biggest opportunity in the Asian Pacific markets and North American markets. And again, these are all Google documentations here. And then it says, so how much is a homepage set worth? So estimated incremental lifetime value, about $3 per user. Value is roughly $6 in the United States due to higher revenue per thousand impressions. And also said, I forgot to read this, tentative, site may need rework. Assumptions. Average number of searches by user by week is 9.4. The incremental searches by week is 15% of 9.4. Average revenue per thousand impressions is 3 cents. Average lifetime of homepage setting is 71 weeks, or 1.4% of users unset by week. And same revenue per thousand impressions on the incremental queries. 1% increase in homepage share can drive $22 million in incremental revenue. Key takeaways. Users do not seem to make an active choice of a search engine. Default homepage strongly influences that choice. The effect is probably overrides, but seems tempered by product quality and brand. Homepage sets could be a powerful strategic weapon for Google. Could be an easy way to grow and defend search market share. Could be used to attack a vulnerability for Yahoo and Microsoft Network. Significant upside potential for gaining market share, especially in North America and Asian Pacific markets. So, what we can see from this presentation here from Google is, I feel like the court could literally argue with all of this, you know what I'm saying? That Google was literally strategizing to use the power of defaults in order to monopolize search engine status by making it harder for Yahoo and Microsoft Network to exist when they're showing the theory behind the strategy that they actually implemented. And in the key takeaway from the theory behind the strategy that they actually implemented, they literally said this could be used to attack a vulnerability for Yahoo and Microsoft Network. I do think, when we look at all of this at the end of the day, that, and then they admit, how much money is involved in all of this as well, so the benefits here too. We can see here the strategic value of the default homepage to Google. They basically do admit that they use the power of defaults to lock themselves into the position in order to monopolize, in my opinion, in this document. You know what I'm saying? But that's just my opinion. You're welcome to form your own conclusion. So yeah, I think we got time to go over one or two more. How many have we gone through? We went through. That's 7. Okay, let's do 1 to 3. Maybe. I don't know. So next up here, oh shit, I forgot to read this thing. My bad. Hold up. Next up, I just clicked it. Okay, we're going to read Exhibit UPX 0125. And this is an email from Peter Cheng of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google regarding ACHP offsite agenda May 6, 2016, with attached Google presentation, Android overview, May 2016. And this is dated October 30th, 2023. And here we go. This is from Peter to Jim. Subject ACHP offsite agenda. And CC'd on this, we've also got Christian Veer, Christopher Lee, and Bhavin Rokad. I'm so sorry, I don't know if I said any of these guys' names right. And these are all people from Google. And it says, "Hi Jim, not a problem at all. We've made some changes to the deck as per your guidance. Please see comments in line for details on what we've adjusted. Let us know if you have any more comments or questions. Cheers, Pete." And it's Peter Cheng, Strategy and Operations. And his email is redacted, of course. And then it seems to have been a response to, on May 5th, 2016, Jim Kolotouros had wrote, "Thanks for sharing and the hard work on this. I re-added China as something to look out for. No problems. Chris and I still need to work on the flow in the first half of the slides. The transition from AOSP to compatibility to GMS is still rough, and I have not mastered it yet, nor what the precise order for a natural educational progression should be. Can we please be more clear with respect to unlicensed versus uncertified or unapproved? More specifically, be clear that uncertified devices are devices by licensed operating equipment manufacturers who did not get approved by us, and that unlicensed devices are by definition uncertified because people have illegally preloaded GMS on their devices. So, 19 out of 20 can be tinkered with a bit. So I'm pretty sure GMS is Google Mobile Services, and it's their whole Google Mobile bundle. But I don't know what AOSP meaning is. Okay, Android Open Source Project. Okay, Android Open Source Project. And then it says, we have added some extra details on slide 19 to specifically call out the difference. Note that we've gone with the approach of using the umbrella term unapproved, which can be broken down into unlicensed and uncertified devices. Let's lose slide 26. Slide has been removed. Slide 28 is too busy and the message is weak. We need to trumpet that there are indeed asks of the broader team. For example, educate retailers, educate carriers that they should not carry uncertified devices. The bottom right talks about search revenue shares, but those are already in place or are in motion. So maybe a color code system of green, yellow, red of what is being done versus what is not being done would be helpful so people can go right to the red and know that we need help. At least we need more help with some things than others. We have retweaked slide 28, now slide 27, to remove some of the clutter, hoping that this makes it a bit clearer. The message here is that we need the team to prioritize these issues in their partner discussions, educate them, give them some kind of carrot, and failing that, be willing to use a stick. We've also added in some traffic lights, as you suggested, but we'll need to defer to your view on what color they should be. Thanks. So yeah, and then it's on Thursday, May 5th, 2016, Peter Cheng had wrote, "Hi Jim, please find the updated deck here for your review. Chris, Bhavin, and I worked to incorporate the additional slides into a new section labeled Current Challenges, which speaks to healthy Android and security letter updates. We also moved the section Things to Keep an Eye on directly after this as we felt that it was a natural follow-up to the challenges. Please let us know if you have any questions or comments. I will be on a flight tomorrow afternoon, but Bhavin will be around, and it looks like Chris is out of the office all day. Bhavin and I will also be online on Monday in London if you need any changes made. Thanks very much, Pete." And it's from Peter Cheng, Strategy and Operations. And we are reading this. So that was May 5th, 2016 at 5:06 p.m. We're still May 5th, 2016. Now we're at 8:57. So I don't know if this is AM or PM on the 8:57 because it doesn't say that. So therefore, but we'll see if we're going up or down in time. Let me see. Am I taking track of that? Before that was 20. Oh, you know what? Okay, yes. So this guy's on military time and the other one doesn't seem to be. So, yes. So it does look like we're going in reverse chronological order here. And so Jim's response is what we're reading from Jim is what was said before what we just read from Peter. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So Jim had said before that, uh, can we please set up some time to see how the non-certified device slide along with the call to action feeds into the master slides? Thanks. But then it's redacted. Before that, Jim had also said all verbal on Europe and Russia. Placeholder, I cannot speak. Placeholder is fine. We can add to slide 24. Let's make a copy of the original that is dedicated for use at the offsite. Thanks. Before that, Christian Veer had wrote, security updates we can also split by operating equipment manufacturer, carrier, and markets. Would put the how can you help at the end. Shall we have actual slides on Europe and Russia or just a placeholder with a little content so we can do it verbally? So yeah, and then I love right here it says internal only. Please do not forward or distribute. And I'm over here on this live stream like, look at this, guys. Yay. Anyway, so from Google, we have this presentation, Android Overview. It says, we believed Google applications would enhance the user experience on smartphones. What is GMS? GMS is a collection of Google applications for Android. I believe it stands for Google Mobile Services, by the way. And then it says, most Google Mobile Services apps are optional and available a la carte. Some Google Mobile Services apps are only available in a bundle, but there is no obligation for operating equipment manufacturers to preload these. Google Mobile Services works beautifully on compatible Android smartphones or tablets and is intended to provide the best possible mobile experience on smartphones, not feature phones. App updates are administered by Google Play. For example, Google Maps cannot be updated on a device if Play is also not installed. There is not a single agreement with any operating equipment manufacturer that requires them to preload any Google Mobile Services app on their device. I wonder if that technicality is true, how that locks into the search default technicality. You know what I'm saying? Or how it locks into the Android contracts in which Android operating system became dependent on the Google Play Store. But those are just questions. I don't know these technicalities, but for me, because of like knowing that, this statement feels a little hypocritical, but maybe we can also look at the timeline, but this timeline is 2016, so that still stands, but I don't know. Okay, let's keep going. And then it says Google Play Services or Google GMS Core is an important element of Play. So what is Google Play Services, Google Mobile Services Core? Play Store provides a set of Google APIs that help support functionality of all Android applications, also known as GMS Core APIs, Google Play Services, such as ads, maps, analytics, location, etc. Used by GMS and hundreds of thousands of third-party apps. 826 out of the top 1,000 Android apps use one or more GMS Core APIs. Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and many other apps. Review of hypothetical scenarios. Scenario. Can a mobile phone without Google Play and GMS core APIs run other Android apps? Yes. Notes. Yes, as long as the apps don't require any APIs from GMS core or they find ways to replicate API functionality themselves or other 3P APIs. Scenario. Can someone effectively utilize GMS core APIs without Google Play installed? No. No. The APIs require and use Play's infrastructure. If a device has Google Play illegally sideloaded, can it access GMS core APIs? Yes. Can access GMS core APIs, but we cannot validate the authenticity of the core API functionality. This is why enforcing unlicensed devices is important. Does Apple offer its own version of iOS GMS core APIs? Yes, iOS has a similar API model, but there are less APIs and they do not offer as deep functionality. And here it says GMS requires signing a set of agreements with Google. ACC and MADA are the two main ones. So, Android Compatibility Commitment, ACC. What does Google get? Compatibility. Company will only distribute Android devices that are Android compatible devices. That is, if a device uses Android, even without GMS, it must be compatible, pass the compatibility test suite, comply with CDD. Exceptions are granted on a case-by-case basis, but companies do not need to sign any other agreements, such as MADA, although almost all OEMs take this step. Carriers and retailers do not or cannot sign the ACC. And then when it comes to the Mobile Application Distribution Agreement, the MADA, what Google gets is preload and placement. Preload. GMS mandatory apps and search widget, Play Store, and Google Collection on the default home screen. That is invoked by the home button. But MADA gives OEMs a device-by-device choice. OEM can preload any other application in addition to Google services. There's no obligation for an OEM to load GMS on any device. Zero exclusivity within the MADA. I believe the exclusivity comes into play in their revenue share agreements, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's another one that Apple has a version of, like the ISA when it comes to the revenue share agreement, but I forget what the fuck they call it. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong about that. And then it says the Android agreement overview. Revenue share offered to limited set of partners. So it shows ACC, Android Compatibility Commitment. Purpose. Ensure all applications work consistently across all compatible devices. Partner commitment. Partner will only distribute Android devices that are Android compatible devices, with or without GMS. MADA, Mobile Application Distribution Agreement. Purpose. OEM partners are given an opportunity to create a basic out-of-box experience. Partner commitment. Satisfy the preload, placement, and branding requirements set forth by Google. And it says for a limited set of partners, there is also the MSDA, Mobile Search Distribution Agreement. Purpose. Allow partners to receive share of mobile search revenue. Partner commitment. Other search services are not preloaded on the default home screen, and search defaults are set to Google. And then we see here, GMS core APIs are a pillar of 3P app development. Google APIs for Android. Simplify your Android development, grow your user base, and monetize more effectively with Google services. GMS core APIs. a set of APIs that developers often use in their applications. Example, ads, why I can't speak, let's say aids. Example, ads, maps, locations, analytics, sign-in, cloud messaging. All key mobile API features from individual Google products, for example, Maps or Places, have migrated their product APIs to GMS Core. Devices without GMS Core APIs must replicate functionality of GMS Core APIs or find replacement from another 3P. GMS Core needs Google Play to function properly. It is part of Google Play and uses Play's infrastructure to deliver first and third-party Play apps. Possible to get access to G-Core via unauthorized Play install. Must be diligent about unlicensed devices. And then it also shows the GMS Core API usage. 86% of top 1,000 apps use GMS Core APIs. So, and then it shows the the number of GMS Core API calls. Facebook has 8, Skype has 9, WhatsApp has 7, Twitter has 9, and Dropbox has 3. And then it shows notable apps with no GMS Core interaction. And it shows Instagram. I don't know what the fuck this is, but some sort of chat thing. HP Print Services, and Adobe. And then our last slide here, it says, what is a client ID and who gets it? It shows client ID overview. Search client ID, Android partner. Only one client ID per mobile device. Search revenue is aggregated at the client ID level. Individual revenue share terms are set for each partner or client ID and paid out accordingly. Individual apps can have their own client IDs. For example, Opera. Assignment of client ID. Samsung, I don't know what the fuck this is, and Verizon. Show some logos here. It says carriers and OEMs hash it out by device or region for whose client ID is on the device. Google does not get involved in these discussions. So yeah, so that's relevant in terms of the revenue search share. It looks like. So basically, what I'm getting of this presentation, and of course I'm not an attorney and I'm not involved and I don't know what all, but what I got from the presentation of all of this is Google was basically like, well, in regards to why it's relevant to the monopoly case, you know what I'm saying? So Google is being accused of search monopoly, and they're saying the way you have these agreements set up locks people into exclusivity because of how the agreements worked out, was what was basically argued against them and how they were found guilty, I believe, if I'm interpreting all of this correctly. And in this documentation, they were basically had said like, it's not that these agreements themselves lock you into exclusivity, because you don't have to sign anything. You can sign another agreement. You know what I mean? That's their argument. Like, no one made anyone sign an agreement seems to be like the argument. If in terms of how these examples, how I perceive them relevant to the case. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm taking this all out of context, so I don't know what they all meant by this, but that's just like how I take it. Like, yeah, and then it just kind of looks like the email chain we read was about the internal communication as it relates to this presentation. And in there we can see where they specifically start discussing more clearly on the unlicensed versus uncertified versus unapproved. Here where we can see you know where people have Google illegally preloaded on their devices. So they want to make sure that there's a clarity between you have to be approved by us in order to work with us. And there's that control mechanism there. You know what I'm saying? So this document, I can see where Google would be using it in terms of their intent, because in terms of intent, they could use this to say, see, we never meant to lock anyone into anything exclusive. But then I also see how the court could argue, see, they're basically trying to say they could have chosen some other shit, so the fucked up thing they did was fine. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. But yeah, but I could be very wrong about that. That's just like kind of like my gross broad interpretation of that. So yeah, I feel like this is a good point to wrap up today. I don't want to cover too much at once because I want to be able to process it all, summarize it, and then I'd rather do multiple lives in a day, if I do end up doing that, than like one live where I'm doing too much and I haven't fully processed what the fuck we just read. I feel like we're not going to get a as good of a recap, if I'm even doing a good recap to begin with. Who knows? But you know, we're trying. It's trying. E for effort. So yeah, to recap today, fucking we first started off with a Google document further explaining randomization, regarding the auction bid to advertisers. And in there, they were basically, in my opinion, admitting that they were kind of basically setting prices. And they were just like, yeah, but if we're honest about that, they're going to be even more mad at us than they already have been, was basically the attitude of that document. You know, like, because it was all about how can we set the prices, but then word it in a way that advertisers aren't mad at us about, is basically like the concept of that. And then after that, we went through some emails from Joan Braddi of Google to Sergey Brin of Google regarding Apple update. And if I'm not mistaken, that was a conversation as it relates to Google, as it relates to the Apple update with the maps, if I'm not mistaken. And oh no, this one's on default placement. Yeah. So this one is as it relates to they were basically saying, you know, that they have an option if they don't do if they don't do default placement with the revenue share, then if they don't do default placement, they don't get revenue. If they do default placement, they will get revenue. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, fucking, and that's where you can argue the exclusivity with the default placement, in my opinion. But that's just me. Um, so that was an email that we read, and then we had the Google presentation that was about the search entry points on Android, and it just went into the different ways you can access Google search in terms of how the device was, you know, set so that like every entry point would be focused on Google, in my opinion. Then we looked into the email from Apple, and in the Apple email, they were talking about, in my opinion, like if their agreement ended with Google, then they could profit more by also doing business with Bing and Microsoft, I believe, is what I was reading from that. And then we get to the maps conversation that I was confused about, where there was that internal conversation, email chain about the default of maps on Apple, how to move those users to Google, and how Google loses money, you know, by maps, by Apple competing with them on maps. You know what I'm saying? And then we also saw the presentation from the Microsoft and Apple team as it relates to the Baja Financial Model. And in that presentation, they really went into further how after a deal, what would that look like? You know what I'm saying? Um, in terms of like they would do in a post-deal world, what would their being share be? You know what I'm saying? So that seemed to be like I like theorizing what could that look like. Um, and then after that, fucking, we looked at the strategic value of the default homepage to Google, and we saw that presentation as it relates to how much money Google is making from having the default homepage, as well as how uh, if people change the default homepage, they're less likely to use Google. And by having the default status set as that, they were able to retain users. And I also believe there was some wording in there about the default status being a way to attack the weaknesses of Yahoo and Microsoft Bing, if I'm not mistaken, there as well, which I believe could get used against them, if I'm not mistaken. And then we also looked at the email from Peter Cheng of Google to Jim Kolotouros of Google regarding the ACHP offsite agenda with a Google presentation on the Apple overview. So in that one, I think that's the last thing that we went through, where we kind of went more in detail about how Google basically really, so there's like a misconception in relation to Android and Google about the contracts and how they're locked in, into which, on one hand, the government is presenting it as if Android relies on Google in order to function regarding the APIs. And in this presentation, Google is arguing, well, they could function without us. They just don't. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to act like they're chosen for being the best, because they discussed hypothetical scenarios in which Android users could function without Google. You know what I'm saying? And trying to act like it's not exclusive, if that makes sense. But we can see with the revenue, what the exclusivity, in my opinion, could be like, where we've already looked at how in conversations, they're basically saying, like, if you don't do the revenue share, then if you don't do the default setting, then you lose the revenue share. So even though exclusivity isn't technically worded in the contracts, I think if that's true, then I think that revenue share is where it's getting argued legally as being exclusive. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think is happening in those discrepancies there. So yeah, fucking, I don't know if I worded that right or if you can read my mind, but we went through 8 documents today, so that's a good bit. So we've now gone through 38 of our trial exhibits. I said trial exhibits. What the fuck, captioner? This thing sucks ass. I don't even want to think about how much else it got wrong in this live stream. So yeah, we've been going through a lot, and we've been getting a good bit of information. So you might be able to look at some of this and be like, okay, well, I can see where Google may not have intended to monopolize, where they're trying to say, look, well, there's other options for these companies. They don't have to do business with us. But in other words, where they say, look, we're fixing the pricing, and how can we not make marketers mad about this? There are still a lot of words that they say that are definitely going to get used against them. So I can see how it can go either way for them. And we've also seen in previous conversation and documentation where it looks like Google could be arguing, we're taking these actions to make it harder for other businesses to exist. So a lot of the evidence that's come out, you could see where it goes either way. And I think another facet of this all too can be, who's the person speaking, right? Because Google is a company, so it's not just one person, it's multiple people. So we can also see how the individual intent and how each personality involved in these communications also impacts the bigger picture perspective of what people think from this. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. So yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing to keep going through it all. I'm basically realizing that I'm going to be going through the Google monopoly cases probably at least till the end of the year, between the the search engine monopoly case and the ad technology case that we need to cover next. So between these 2 cases, I think I'm going to be on Google monopoly for the rest of the year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll finish up before. But yeah, I am going to also, I might still be doing more of these trial exhibits next. But because we're going to be doing so much of this legal coverage and so much of it's going to, take a bit to get through, I will start planning and prepping to cover some other shit too, just to break it up and have some different things up in here as well. Because I know we've been stuck on this for a minute. But again, I just want to reiterate, it's so important to me to cover because all of this, if nothing changes or if not much changes, then we literally have as much info as we're ever gonna fucking get into behind the scenes as to how Google operates and for how we all find information and how businesses get found and how advertisers can generate return on investment, right? So if nothing changes, then this helps us so much because we basically get even more information to understand what we are using, like even right now, what we can do with that to monetize better, right? Or to get our message out there. And then if things change, things always change based on the history. So the more we understand about how Google became to be as they are and why the decisions are being made for what's going to happen next, then the better we'll be able to plan our marketing to accommodate the changes that will be coming to us, to adjust and adapt and overcome these obstacles, because there could be some coming at us. Who knows? You know what I mean? So yeah, thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to covering more of this. I'll get to more of it when I can in 2 Shakes of a Lamb's Tail. I said I'll cover this more when I can in 2 Shakes of a Lamb's Tail. The captioner got that fucking wrong again. God, fuck that thing. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day, and bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.